The way that his demeanour and his mannerism was so odd and scary, the way he kind of looked at me like this was like an okay thing.
It took me years to forgive myself and tell myself that I did not let that happen.
It's a type of violence that gets in and destroys you slowly.
But I don't think I actually even told anyone.
If I'd be walking past them, they'd pull me down on their lap and try to kiss me.
There will be more of us.
Especially if our society refuses to understand sexual assault.
It's time we started talking about this openly.
So join us.
Wherever in the world you are.
You're not the only one.
You're not the only one.
Social media has many platforms. These platforms give the world a chance to take in a conversation despite their distance.
The hashtag narrows down the conversation and makes specific topics visible, easier to communicate, and creates a shared language that people can use.
The #MeToo hashtag serves a different purpose than most trending topics. #MeToo serves to create a virtual movement, a new age meeting place that empowers those affected.
Looking back, we know this is not the first time that someone has been assaulted, but this time it's different. With a hashtag, anything can become viral, revealing the omnipresence of the problem at hand, a problem that has been silenced until now.
A history of sexual assault.
In 1977, the famous film director Roman Polanski was arrested and charged for sexual assault on a 13-year-old girl. He was charged with rape by use of drugs, perversion, sodomy, lewd and lascivious act upon a child under 14, and furnishing a controlled substance to a minor. Because of his status, he was offered a plea bargain that dismissed all 5 charges as long as he pled guilty to unlawful sexual intercourse.
The authorities who did reprimand him and spoke about his case, including Judge Lawrence L. Rittenband, treated him less like a sexual offender, but as an average person who made a mistake.
After court-ordered psychiatric evaluations and possible imprisonment, Polanski fled the country, leaving all matters of the case unresolved. As of 2009, the victim is still fighting for justice.
In 1978, a woman named Juanita Broderick was volunteering under Bill Clinton's campaign for governor of Arkansas. Juanita tells reporters that Clinton requested to have coffee with her to discuss some of the work she was doing and invited himself to her hotel room to do so. Only minutes after showing up in her room, Juanita says that Clinton pushed her down onto the bed and forcibly had sex with her. She was left with a bruised and swollen lip due to his sexual misconduct. Juanita states that the last thing he said to her before leaving was, "You'd better get some ice for that."
2 years later, Broderick, still working on Clinton's campaign, received a handwritten note from Clinton saying, "I admire you very much." She took this as a thank you for remaining silent. It wasn't until 1999 that Broderick came out alongside another victim, explaining the story of what happened. The FBI investigated the claim and decided that since there was no photos or records taken of the incident at the time, there was insufficient evidence and the case was inconclusive.
The year 2014 was the year that 41 women came out and admitted being raped by Bill Cosby at one point in their life. All of these women tell their stories dating all the way back to 1965, and the most recent having happened in 2008. What each of these stories have in common is the allegation of drugs and/or alcohol to paralyze the victim so Cosby could sexually assault them as he pleased.
Finally, in June of 2017, Cosby was put on trial for all of these allegations. However, when taken to the jury, the trial was declared a mistrial because the jury could not come to a unanimous verdict. Cosby was declared not guilty and was not acquitted. There are many theories as to why this happened, including too long of a time lapse between the alleged assaults in the case, the judge not allowing the rest of the women to testify, and questionable credibility of one of the testifiers. The state attorney noted his intention to retry Cosby at a later time.
All of these cases happened before social media existed to give them repeated and consistent exposure. The most recent sexual assault case to be uncovered is the one involving Harvey Weinstein and his multiple victims.
Harvey Weinstein's victims had the chance to come out and share their stories through social media, bringing a much larger and more immediate awareness to this issue. Now, due to its exposure all over the internet, Harvey Weinstein is facing serious charges.
Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out in our favor. Our president has been accused by 16 different women of sexual assault. His victims have spoken out in light of all of the stories that have come forward. They are finding that his amount of power surpasses the impact of their horrific tales.
Many believe that if Donald Trump had not been elected, the Me Too movement may not have even started. The leaking of his sexual harassment video prior to the election didn't trouble his voters. Those outraged by the election knew to stop being silent. Women learned to speak out and start holding men accountable for their crimes. Thus, the Me Too movement was born.
Social media is a tool for connecting people, starting a movement, and explaining the meanings behind the movement itself. In today's world, social media has developed a huge presence. We've changed from a society with only a few news channels to rely on to a society where anyone can search topics through social media apps at any given time. With limited privacy, seeing other people's posts has become very easy.
A big part of the social media platform is the hashtag. When someone wants to look for something specific, they can type the topic they are looking for with a hashtag in front of it. Hashtagging narrows it down to a single page. Someone can click the hashtag and see every other post relating to it. A hashtag is a purposeful language choice in the way that it can be easily accessed, followed, and discussed.
This has become a powerful tool by creating a common language and place for a topic of interest to grow. It creates the opportunity for a movement to be born and branded. When a movement is started through the use of widespread hashtags, it's called hashtag activism.
There have been many hashtag activist movements since the explosion of social media, including hashtag Black Lives Matter and with the recent election, hashtag Not My President. The most recent movement to gain attention is Me Too.
As a hashtag gains popularity, it starts trending, meaning the social media platform has seen that it's being used a lot and places it on a trending list visible to everyone with the app. Before placed on a trending list, hashtags had to be privately searched. This makes them visible to all users. With trending topics reaching every user, movements have a greater chance of gaining attention. Through tweeting and reposting the hashtag, widespread conversation spreads immediately, building community much faster than the days before hashtags.
As a trending topic, Me Too and other similar hashtags created a single space for women all over the world to share their stories, calling attention to an issue that has been going on as long as time.
This movement is particularly special because well-known celebrities such as Alyssa Milano, Sophia Bush, and Gabrielle Union have joined the conversation. By adding their stories to the page, more attention is brought to the issue, empowering all women to use and share the hashtag.
All women, regardless of age or location, can relate to this issue at some level. The purpose of this hashtag is to show that ignoring it will not make the issue go away. Sexual assault is a global injustice that has been elucidated by the viral use of Me Too.
Data from RAINN shows 1 American is sexually assaulted every 98 seconds. It's important to remember that the numbers haven't changed over the years, but now women aren't as afraid to share their story. With this hashtag as a language tool, they are finding their voice.
An anonymous writer for The Collegian simply puts it, the hashtag isn't just the next trending Twitter topic or a method by which users seek sympathy. It could be the first time that millions of victims around the world feel their own stories of sexual assault can progress from a once taboo conversation and possibly finally bestow a societal conscience on the topic.
A hashtag is a tool that builds community, becomes an identifier, and narrows down language to become more topic-specific. Before the option of sharing stories on social media became commonplace, language was used to shame victims. Language was used to blame the victim and bully them into silence. An article in the Daily Mail talks about a study of both men and women expressing their thoughts on who's to blame for rape. The findings showed that many believe the woman is asking for it if she is too drunk, dressed too provocatively, has had many sexual partners, or just didn't say no.
A Huffington Post article discusses the way Baltimore's police department handles rape cases. It describes their common method as asking questions that put blame on the victims or suggesting that they were responsible. They were also caught using insensitive language describing the rape victims they encounter to fellow officers. They make little to no effort to actually investigate the suspects and see rape cases as their lowest priority.
Publications choose words that are vague and mild. These passive phrases are repeated, becoming less heavy. This negative language has stopped women from reporting their story out of fear that it won't be taken seriously, or worse, not believed. Over the years, the subject of rape and sexual harassment has had its ebbs and flows of being taken seriously and being seen as a punchline.
In 2007, the term gray rape appeared in a panel discussion at the John Jay College of Criminal Justice. The panel discussed how to handle rape cases with blurred lines as to who wanted what. Unfortunately, a big part of the discussion talked about how these days girls were pursuing men just as much as they were pursued themselves, and that often men end up confused and flustered when unplanned sex happens too. This is yet another stance that takes the side of men and puts a casual focus around the idea of rape. Gray rape is a term that quickly died out due to its message that women were asking for it.
A year later, rape face was a popular meme floating around used by kids as young as middle school. The picture is supposed to show what a man's face looks like before raping a girl. Many thought this awkward smile was funny. The meme was never actually used in context of a rape situation. Instead, it was used as a comedic response to a comment with the rape face hashtag attached. As hashtag rapeface became a slang term, it made the word rape have a laughable connotation. The term became so common that people began seeing rape as an adjective instead of the graphic verb that it is.
Since then, social media has grown and has the power to keep ideas in the forefront of people's minds, and the language has become more specific and detailed. This movement has brought back the intensity behind words like rape, violate, attack, molest, abuse, defile, invade, and disrespect. Word choice has transformed from nouns to active verbs, giving them more meaningful presence. With this movement, people still see and hear these words every day. However, now this language has power. It resonates with people and isn't spoken with the intention of a laugh.
These now powerful words help to make this movement successful. A study that analyzed word usage in a Me Too conversation counted the amount of times certain words were used. The results showed that within conversation, the word assault appeared almost 6,000 times. They also searched for related words such as rape, slap, grab, catcall, attack, punch, and harassment. This sample was taken in October, so these numbers have inevitably increased. It is words like these in conjunction with the accessibility of social media and hashtags that create awareness, prevalence, and meaning behind these words and to the greater issues.
If hashtags in social media had existed back when Polanski, Clinton, and Cosby committed their crimes, women would have had the chance to be heard and potentially receive the justice that they deserved.
Sexual assault conversations were short-lived with only a few listeners prior to the dawn of social media. Traditional media provided a small platform for victims by briefly summarizing their traumatic event into a few sound bites, a brief interview, or a short number of words.
The introduction of social media allowed any user to be privy to any and all posts on the subject. Winnie M. Lee, a PhD researcher of media and communications at the London School of Economics and Political Science, writes that unlike traditional media, television, radio, newspaper articles, social media poses no concern over column inches or expensive airtime, so individual writing can be expansive and more thorough. Social media can document the much longer, often lifelong impact of a rape on a survivor's life. Anybody can see it, read it, and empathize with it.
The vast accessibility and participation of women is what gave the Me Too movement its power. Women have the option to be a part of the conversation, an option that was unavailable to them in the past. This movement is only now gaining so much attention because it is being presented constantly to a global audience.
Women have the choice of writing and posting their own stories. According to Facebook, this official Me Too group has 8,436 members. There are thousands of stories from women and men all over the world. Even now, 2 months after the movement began, the page is still active, getting up to 30 new posts every day.
Women can also share, react to, or comment on a story already posted. Alyssa Milano herself noted that there were more than 1.7 million tweets using the hashtag. However, there were more than 12 million posts, comments, and reactions on Facebook within the first 24 hours, showing that participation does not have to be you sharing your own story.
Women can also choose to just simply post the hashtag by itself. On October 16th, the second day of the movement, Twitter confirmed to CNN that Me Too had been tweeted more than 500,000 times. With over 2 billion active users, about 30% of the world, Facebook reported that 45% of them have shared the Me Too hashtag. Doing the math, this means that 9.3 million people have publicly taken part of this movement on Facebook alone. We like that.
The last option women have to participate is just by reading what other women have posted. Some say that simply reading other stories has been a cathartic experience, allowing them to stay anonymous. It helps them to realize they are not alone. The widespread access and centralization of ideas from the hashtag has helped unite women and take the feelings of vulnerability and shame away from this situation and turn them into power.
Some say that they shouldn't have to publicly share their story for sexual assault to be seen as a valid societal injustice. This position is fair. However, the levels of participation provide individual choice in the movement. The hashtag has given them a community to join, to see that they are not alone, no matter how they choose to participate. It helps women feel less like lone survivors and more like a member of a global team standing up to fight its injustice. Each level of participation helps to validate the cause of the movement. Sexual assault is prevalent and needs to be stopped.
Jane Fonda recently said in an interview that one of the reasons this movement is getting the attention it has received is because the women sharing their stories are famous, rich, and white. An employee of the social media page Now Her expressed her thoughts in the following video, stressing the need to better fight for all women who have experienced sexual assault or harassment.
Over 79 women have accused Harvey Weinstein of sexual misconduct, and in the days after the story broke, Lupita Nyong'o was the first black woman to come out with her own story with Weinstein, and she just so happened to be the only woman who he responded to, saying he remembered a different version of events. We have to remember, if we want to make change, we have to do it for all women.
Some believe that sharing stories is not enough and that we need to do better.
Unfortunately, most times when we speak about rape, it is constructed in a passive voice, speaking of it as something that just happens to women. This makes it seem as though it is inevitable and there's nothing that we can do to stop it. We speak about the individual women who have been violated. We name them and show their photograph. What we do not speak about is the men who have committed the crime.
The statistics are reported this way. 1 in 6 women have been a victim of sexual assault. As of 1998, 17.7 million American women have been sexually assaulted. Jackson Katz, a documentary filmmaker, has publicly stated that it is time for society to start holding men accountable for their actions. He says we use language that implies sexual assault is a woman's problem, instead of something men are very much a part of. Well, if this is true, we do need to do better, but at least we are now talking about it. If we can sustain this conversation, we believe that social change is bound to manifest.
Some argue the movement won't last. In the space of a few days, the conversation was already showing signs of dying down. Past sexual assault crimes have shown outcry with little change. Polanski is still a fugitive, Clinton was still elected, Cosby is not in prison, and Trump remains our president. It is a fear amongst many women that the same thing will happen to Weinstein and other men in the movement, and their concern is valid. However, Me Too succeeded in generating conversation around the topic, more so than in earlier campaigns. Within 24 hours, the hashtag surpassed several other related tags from earlier this year. The problem has not yet been solved, as the accused remain in places of power, but Me Too has created a global conversation about sexual assault. Hopefully, these conversations persist and both men and women fight to make a difference.
Winnie Lee reminds us that these recent social media stories have revealed how society actually views rape. From every story and allegation, we see that rape does not differentiate between class, age, race, sexual orientation, or workplace, and that the debate has voice from the victims themselves. In this sense, Me Too is a game changer. Regardless of your personal stance, each story represents a real voice of normal people trying to live their life. They are the women serving you food, fighting for freedom, driving your Uber, and so many others. And it's time that we as a society start taking their allegations seriously.
The language used by the Me Too hashtag draws attention to sexual assault on women in order to change societal behavior. We have seen how men in the past have not faced consequences for their actions. We have seen the power that social media has in creating virtual community, and how the hashtag has created a space for activism conversations, regardless of how much you choose to participate.
The violent actions of men have continued. The descriptive language has changed. Social media has allowed women to use specific vocabulary that depicts their stories in a more powerful, graphic, and effective way. While the hashtag is so simple, it holds a great deal of weight and importance, as those 2 words, Me Too, tell thousands of women's stories.
It is inevitable that serious topics will find their way into classrooms, either as ignorant jokes or genuine inquiries. As future teachers, it will be our responsibility to engage students in these discussions in ways that are appropriate for the classroom and their age. It can be tricky to navigate through the boundaries, but depending on the demographics and needs of the class, you may need to address it.
I believe that teachers in elementary and middle school settings can take social media platforms and adapt them to their classrooms. Teachers can discuss what a hashtag does and how it helps bring people together. Students can work to come up with a school or classroom hashtag that they can take pride in, just like the members of the Me Too campaign. This can serve to unite the class and help them see that there are ways to help their peers grow instead of tear them down.
Teachers in secondary settings, you can implement a class hashtag or even simply use the Me Too movement to say that you are an ally for those who have experienced sexual assault. You can share community resources and individuals that students can go to for advice or counseling. By providing students with avenues to share their experience, you are showing them that they should not feel ashamed or silent.
Simply using social media and hashtags in the school setting can enhance a student's experience. Thinking bigger than the Me Too movement, the idea that social media is a place to share experiences and voice opinions is one that needs to make its way into classrooms. Students need to know that their voices can be taken seriously and are valued. When students have a sense of belonging, they are able to succeed and see the importance of school in their lives.
It is our hope that this Me Too movement is able to spark social and congressional change with sexual assault, as well as continue to empower women to speak out about wrongdoings committed against them. We hope to see the power of social media and the hashtag permeate the walls of schools and help young people believe in the power of their voice.
This is my fight song. Take back my life.